Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when the person you trusted most betrays you in the worst possible way? Not a simple betrayal, not a silly lie, but hiding from you the death of your parents for years. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine discovering that handshake, that look in the eyes, that "we're in this together" was all built on a lie that bleeds, a lie that destroys. Tony Stark lived through this, and what happened in that bunker in Siberia changed the Marvel universe forever. The scene starts cold, literally. That abandoned bunker full of frozen super soldiers seemed like the worst place in the world for a revelation like that. But maybe it was the perfect place, because what Tony was about to discover would freeze something inside him too. Zemo, the guy who lost everything in Sokovia, wife, son, his entire life. He had no superpowers, no army, nothing but a consuming pain. And it was that pain that turned him into the most dangerous villain the Avengers ever faced. Because he understood something no one else did. You don't need to defeat the Avengers. You just need to make them destroy themselves. And his weapon? A videotape. When that recording starts playing, time stops. We see the car, see the accident, and then we see the Winter Soldier, see Bucky, and see him doing the unthinkable. Howard Stark, Maria Stark, Tony's parents, murdered in cold blood. Take a deep breath. Try to imagine what went through Tony's mind at that moment. The guy who built armor to protect himself from the entire world, completely unarmed, vulnerable, destroyed, but the worst was yet to come. Tony turns to Steve, to Captain America, to the guy he considered a brother in battle, and asks a simple question, a question that carried the weight of years of friendship. Did you know? Silence. Did you know? And Steve answers, yes. In that moment, something breaks. It's not just trust. It's not just friendship. It's the very idea that good people exist in the world. People who do the right thing. Tony believed this about Steve. Steve was the symbol of it. And now? Now he was just another person who chose to lie to him. You know what's most painful? Tony wasn't just angry at Bucky. He understood on some level that Bucky was controlled, that Hydra had brainwashed him, that it wasn't really Bucky who killed his parents, but Steve knew. Steve looked him in the eyes every day, fought alongside him, and chose to protect Bucky instead of being honest with him. The fight that happens after isn't a fight of heroes against villain. It's a fight of shattered hearts. Tony attacking with all the fury of an orphaned son. Steve defending the only friend left from his old life. Bucky trying to survive a past he doesn't even properly remember living. Every punch from Tony carries decades of pain. Every time he looks at Bucky, he sees the hand that took his mother's life. He sees Maria Stark's final seconds, and it burns. Burns in a way no armor can protect against. We always romanticize the Avengers. We see them as this united family that saves the world. But real family? Real family hurts. Real family keeps secrets. Real family sometimes makes impossible choices. Steve made an impossible choice. He chose to protect Bucky because Bucky was all that remained of his past. The only bridge to who Steve Rogers was before the serum, before the ice, before waking up in a world that was no longer his. But does that justify it? Put it on the scale. On one side, a lifetime friendship with Bucky. On the other, honesty with Tony. The chance to tell the truth before it exploded like this. The chance to trust that Tony, even with all the pain, would process it differently if he had time. Steve didn't give him that chance. And that's why that shield driven into Tony's reactor at the end of the fight meant much more than a physical defeat. It meant the end of something that seemed indestructible. The saddest part? They were both right. And they were both wrong. Tony had every right to feel that rage, to want revenge, to be unable to separate Bucky the assassin from Bucky the victim. No one can judge the pain of losing parents that way. No one can say how someone should react watching their mother being strangled on video. Steve had every right to protect his friend, to believe Bucky deserved a chance, to understand that decades of torture and mind control don't define who a person really is. But the lie? The lie had no justification, and that's what destroys relationships in real life, too. It's not the difficult truths. It's the lies to protect. It's the secrets kept with good intentions. It's the omissions we make thinking we're doing the right thing. When Tony leaves that bunker, he leaves more than the shield behind. He leaves the belief that the world of heroes was different, purer, simpler. He discovers that even the greatest symbols of justice make selfish choices, that even Captain America can fail. And you know what's most human about this whole story? Neither of them can simply move on. Years later, when Thanos threatens the universe, the wound is still open. That letter Steve sends to Tony, along with the phone, is the most he can offer. It's not a real apology. It's not an explanation. It's just a door left ajar. But doors left ajar are sometimes enough. When Tony sees Steve again in Wakanda, before everything collapses with the snap, there's that moment, that look. Two people who hurt each other deeply, trying to remember why they were once friends. This scene in the bunker is considered one of the best in the entire MCU because it has no real villain. There are three broken people doing the best they can with the worst circumstances. There's trauma colliding with trauma. There's love distorted into violence. There's loyalty transforming into betrayal. And at the center of it all, there's a question that's never answered. What would you do in their place? If you were Tony, could you forgive? If you were Steve, would you have told the truth? If you were Bucky, how would you live knowing what your hands did while you weren't yourself? The friendship that broke that day was never completely repaired. Even at the end, even fighting together against Thanos, the scars remained. Some bonds, when they break, don't go back to what they were. They stay patched up, functional, but never whole again. And maybe that's what makes this story so real, so painful, so ours. Because at the end of the day, we've all been Tony at some point. We've all discovered truths that changed everything. We've all looked at someone we loved and asked with our heart in our hands, "Did you know?" Now tell me something. If you had to choose between protecting someone you love and being honest with someone else you also love, which choice would you make?